This is Passport to Everywhere.
Few hotels manage to perfectly balance an incredible pedigree with a sense of modern luxury, as the St. Regis New York does. And even fewer have been doing so for more than a century.
No other luxury hotel brand can claim a mythology as rich and as authentic as ours. We're truly the original house of luxury.
Welcome to Passport to Everywhere with Indigare's Melissa Biggs-Bradley. Melissa is the founder and CEO of Indigare, a travel and media company committed to inspiring and empowering people to change their lives and the world through travel, while having a positive impact on the places they visit. On the show, Melissa will reveal a behind-the-scenes look at some of the world's most treasured places, transport you to dream destinations and hotels, and introduce you to some of the most extraordinary people she's met on the road. This is Passport to Everywhere.
The iconic St. Regis brand set an early gold standard in the world of luxury when in 1904, visionary John Jacob Astor IV founded the very first St. Regis Hotel in New York City. It was quickly dubbed the finest hotel in America by the New York Times. Beyond its opulence, the original St. Regis stood out for its advanced technology, its artistry, and its mixology. Each room offered guests their own telephones, for instance. The legendary Old King Cole mural was revealed there, and the famed Bloody Mary cocktail was created on site. Over a century later, though the brand has expanded into more than 40 luxurious properties worldwide, from North America, Europe, and Asia into Africa and the Middle East, the legacy and the majesty of the very first St. Regis lives on. This year marks the St. Regis's 120th anniversary, and coinciding with the Hallmark Jubilee is the much-anticipated reopening of the New York location, which we're going to talk about today. Joining me to walk us through the hotel's rich history, its constant innovation, and always epic celebrations are three key members of the team. Each is responsible for delivering the distinguished St. Regis experience in their very own way. Amanda Nichols, the global brand leader of St. Regis, Octavia Marginean-Tahiroglu, the general manager of the St. Regis New York, and Israel Kelly from the esteemed Butler team, who's been working on property since 1995. That's 29 years now. Together, we'll give you an inside look at how the St. Regis has remained a symbol of status for 120 years. We have a lot to unpack, and I couldn't be more excited to have everyone here.
I would love to start with the history of St. Regis. The original St. Regis was founded 120 years ago in 1904. And I would love, Amanda, to hear you tell me a bit about how its opening really set a new standard for luxury hospitality.
Of course, when the St. Regis New York opened its doors in 1904, as you mentioned, it really introduced the world to a level of luxury never before seen. We think about luxury hotels being so ubiquitous everywhere now, but that really did not exist in the US. And it was actually considered somewhat low class to stay at hotels. And really, the wealthy were staying in the homes of their friends. And so, this notion of a luxury hotel was pretty innovative at the time. John Jacob Astor IV, who we will speak a lot about, but he's the founder of St. Regis, and he was a true son of the Gilded Age. He fashioned himself as an inventor, an explorer, an author, and really, obviously, a very inspired real estate developer. And his vision was to create a hotel that really rivaled the finest hotels in Europe, offering guests the feeling of being in a private home. And for their comfort, he introduced modern conveniences and thought about telephones in every room and air conditioning, or what they called air cooling systems, but really thinking about the guest experience and what he could bring to that to allow each guest to control that. And so he thought a lot about how guests would want to be among similarly elite people, luminaries traveling from different fields and different states, but also thinking about how everyone would want to have their own little space within the hotel. And so thinking through the way that guests would want to travel and All of these kind of signals of wealth were really important for him as he thought about this guest experience. Another indication of wealth was the hotel menu. When the hotel first opened, the hotel restaurant had 80 items to choose from on the menu. And the thought was that a really elaborate menu would allow guests to feel like they were in the presence of greatness and like any wish could be granted. And so even a small touch point really set the stage for St. Regis to be a place where the answer could always be yes. And when we hear more from Octavia and Israel shortly, they will tell you how that sentiment still rings true today.
The Astors were great entertainers, weren't they? And I'd love to hear you tell me a little bit more about the family themselves and how important they were to really the history of New York, not just because of the St. Regis, but just because of their visionary ideas about entertaining, which is what makes the menu so fun.
Absolutely. No, they were a fascinating family. Their world and their vision was really all about exclusivity and desire. They initially made their fortune through the fur trade and then generationally began investing in New York City real estate. And so, for the purpose of this podcast, I'll jump right to the generation of Caroline Astor. She's the mother of John Jacob IV, and she was one of New York's most powerful women. And it's really this notion of hosting and the celebrations. And really, it's her taste that still influences the St. Regis brand today. Her ancestry can be traced back to the founding of New York City. So I think that's a little bit where she fashioned herself as this foremost authority. She would hand select and create the social register of who's who, and it became known as Caroline's 400. Those would be the 400 elite people who would be invited to her legendary galas. And if you were not on that list, you were not part of culture and society of that day. And can you imagine just taking it upon yourself to choose who is who of society? But that's absolutely what she did. The Astors, it was their social clout that really made St. Regis a place to be seen. And it was their lifestyle that really attracted guests to St. Regis, and the way that they invited guests to experience the rituals that happened in the Astors' daily lives. That was really this, notion that made them the original influencers. And so it became captivating to society to be part of their world. And even to this day, when we think about the experience in our hotels, it really reflects a lot on that family and their traditions.
You've evolved a lot. Can you give a little bit of a sense of how the company has grown and transformed over the years from the original hotel in New York? How many are there today, and what does the brand really represent?
Absolutely. This story is long and detailed, but I'll try to hit some of the highlights. And Octavia, maybe you can help me with some of the milestones that are specific for the St. Regis New York too, because that played a really big role for us. Picking up a few decades after St. Regis opened to great acclaim, we have John Jacob Astor off on his honeymoon in Europe with his second wife, realizing they were expecting and so wanting to get back to the United States immediately so their child could be born in New York. And used to only the finest things, they booked first class passage on the maiden voyage of the largest and most luxurious passenger ship of its time, the RMS Titanic. You could probably tell a little bit about where this story is going. And sadly, the family lost its visionary and inventor of John Jacob Astor on that voyage, but his unborn child survived, and the family came back to New York. And through a couple years later, the St. Regis was subsequently sold out of the family, but purchased back by his first son in 1935. And so at that point, I think it's really where we start to think about the brand and the hotel coming into modern day, where his son Vincent took over the hotel, once again makes it the social epicenter of New York, attracting top chefs and creating glamorous experiences. Things like a supper entertainment club or the Iridian room that had an ice skating platform underneath the orchestra floor. And so the 40s and 50s were a time of really iconic celebrations day in and day out at the hotel. And Octavia, I'm going to actually ask you to help out a little bit with some of these milestones in the middle because New York really started to recognize the importance of this hotel and its history, no?
Thank you so much, Amanda. And that is true. Jumping from the 30s and 40s and their glamours and post World War II, in 1965, the St. Regis is named a New York landmark by New York Community Trust. And we still are a landmark that I will share a bit later. So in 85, St. Regis New York actually closed its doors for the first time in its history. And it went a complete renovation and reopened in 1991. However, in 1988, during the renovation planning, the St. Regis New York was declared a New York City landmark. So we are so privileged to have not only very good bones in this hotel, but also bones that are recognized as being a landmark as a shell of the property.
That's amazing. And Octavia, I would love to have you talk a little bit now about the reopening of the St. Regis because it's coinciding with the 120th anniversary of the brand. And you have been running the flagship, Octavia. What are you most excited about for the new rebirth or transformation of the St. Regis?
Over time, there were so many various renovations added and so many removed aspects of the original architecture. So our goal with this particular transformation of our spaces is to simplify and bring back the elegance in 2025 and forward while we are embracing the 1904 version. We did have so intensive studies on the historical photos, and we incorporated those original architectural elements in an elegant and new way. We are so fortunate to be led by Champollion Design, this effort of renovation, and our public spaces are embracing the hotel's design legacy and original Beaux-Arts architecture. We are looking truly to be in a process of like transformation into a lavish urban haven that the Astor family would really feel at home in 21st century and feel that the guests and luminaries of the hotel would feel in their own home away from home. And we are proud of this fresh approach as it combines the heritage design elements like the Waterford crystal chandeliers. And as a fun fact, this hotel hosts over 5 tons of Waterford crystal and the original crown moldings. We are modernizing them with contemporary furnishings, layered textures, and refined color palette. We are looking into creating a space that feels reborn with a totally new vision for the hotel and for the guest experience.
That's fantastic. And Amanda, I'd love to go back to the brand in general and ask you what you think makes the St. Regis stand out compared to other hotels or brands that you've been involved with in the past.
No other luxury hotel brand can claim a mythology as rich and as authentic as ours. We're truly the original house of luxury. And something that I think about when I look at some of my sister brands across Marriott's luxury group, St. Regis is so specific in that it's actually a world creating brand to me. We've created an entire world of what it was like to live as an Astor, and we invite guests to come inside and stay with us. And so, you have to be cautious and you have to be thoughtful about the way you modernize it. The rituals that we have for this brand are something that we hold so true, and that feels very unique to us in ways that connects our hotels all around the world. Whether it's our butler service, that's something very specific to us, and then our rituals of afternoon tea or evening ritual. Everyone has seen the Sabrage and heard our Napoleon Bonaparte story. Midnight suppers, Caroline Astor's famous after parties. And then, of course, one of the most important rituals for our King Cole Bar in New York is our Bloody Mary ritual. So to work on a brand and to lead a brand that has such rich territory like that is pretty unique and pretty lucky.
Yeah, it's amazing. And actually, since you talked about the butler program, I would love to talk to you, Israel, about how the tradition of the butler service started and how it's evolved over the years, because you've been at the St. Regis almost 30 years now, if I'm right.
Yeah, that is correct. Thank you for asking. The butler service was born because of the founder, John Jacob Astor. Want his guests to feel as if they were staying in his home. And in those days, the wealthy had butlers. So at the St. Regis, there was a team of gentlemen present all the time to assist the guests with whatever they needed. We use this bespoke, extremely personalized service to inspire our signature butler service today. John Jacob Astor IV was a visionary ahead of his time. So he foresaw a new era of glamour and opulence right after the heart of Fifth Avenue, leading this to the idea of the construction of this very unique place in 1901. That was his vision, was for a place to become a home away from home. Because of it, the St. Regis Butler was born.
And Israel, I'd love to have you explain to our listeners and to me what you can expect from the butler service while staying at the hotel. I think in today's world, even many wealthy people staying at the St. Regis wouldn't actually have a butler at home. Most people don't, I don't think. And they don't necessarily know how to use them or what to expect or what's an appropriate request. So, can you tell us a little bit about what is involved in the butler service and what you think is the best way for guests to use them?
Yes, of course. The St. Regis service is a philosophy delivered by all our hosts every day. Our luminaries, spirits, butlers, service is both big and small gestures. Every point of view of guest stay is considered and met with anticipated service, no matter who delivers it. And the most important thing is that set us apart from other luxury hotels. We have a complimentary service of coffee or tea upon arrival. It's essentially important for the guests knowing that their laundry will be taken care of by the butler. Besides, we have the packing and unpacking services. This will be one of the less things that they will have to think about unpacking. We use our bespoke approach and we are attentive to any requests that they might have. This service is very proactive. We use something called the guest history. Every time we have interactions with the guests, we start a conversation to learn more about the guest preferences. This is one of the things that makes this butler service unique around all the hotels. We pay attention to details like birthdays and anniversaries, arranging details about the occasions and events that are important for the guests. All this is anticipated because of the interactions that we have with the guests, essentially gathering more information for next arrival.
You're listening to Passport to Everywhere, and I'm your host, Melissa Biggs Bradley. I hope you're enjoying today's dynamic conversation. I'm excited to continue sharing the magic behind this historic St. Regis. But first, I have some of the latest travel news from one of our recent features on Indagare.com, covering the secrets of the suites of some of the best European hotels. The fall continues to be one of my favorite times to travel, and I've just started scouting for our Insider Journey small group trips. I've written an in-depth report on Indagare about some of my favorite properties with some of the most jaw-dropping suites from our partners at the luxury group at Marriott International. So if you also happen to find yourself in London, Paris, or the Mediterranean this off-season, make sure to write this list down. Hotels that you'll want to check out are the Gritty Palace in Venice, Hotel Prince de Galles in Paris, the London Edition, the Grand Bretagne in Athens, and the St. Regis Rome. These hotels have all mastered luxury by offering special experiences that you can't get anywhere else. You can stay in the room where Hemingway used to write, or in the suite with unbeatable views of the Acropolis in Athens. Participate in the St. Regis signature champagne sabering, and so much more. For the full report on the secrets of these suites with insider tips from me, head to Indagare.com. Now, back to the show.
I'd love to ask either one of you, Amanda or Octavia, or both of you, when you think about traditions and services like the butler service that have evolved over time as the world has become more modern and people's needs change. What are some of the ways that you balance traditions and rituals with new technology or new customer needs?
We think about a lot the use of technology in the luxury space. It's tricky. You have to try to balance that element of human interaction and human touch with the convenience and the way that travelers want to operate and live their life today. And so I think when we, in our kind of St. Regis discussions with the hotel GMs or the hotel teams, we think about how luxury can be used to really free up time for our guests. If that's really the biggest luxury we can give them back is time, technology needs to be used in service of that and not in place of actual true interaction or help. As Israel was talking, I was thinking of some of the things that even within our butler program, the ways that we've tried to streamline the conversation with our guests by having the butler reach out ahead of time. And it's your kind of one-stop shop is the way that you'd share with them your preferences, the things you want to do there, any of the wishes or considerations that you need. And in addition to those complimentary services, they're really there to help streamline and make your stay as easy and luxurious as possible. And now that sounds really great. That's easier said than done here where I sit. I think we'd have to ask Octavia the true technology that goes behind how we deliver those experiences, because as a leader at a hotel, she's the real expert there.
Paradoxically, right? Embracing change, I think it's one of the most interesting features and approaches that humans could have to technology. I strongly believe that as humans, sometimes we reject change just by default. And then it becomes even more interesting to be a leader where we have to accustom ourselves not only to the consumer's desires, but also to the execution portion. And we do recognize that service today is expected truly to be delivered at the whims of fingertips. And we do strive to blend this cutting edge technology with our timeless luxury offerings. We offer a variety of digital options for our luminaries, and that includes the mobile check-in that is available now for Bonvoy members that can access their app. The e-butler service communication that is managed by our concierge team and is communicated directly to our butlers. Then there's digital communication platforms where we can actually chat, and we have team members trained to chat with our guests. And this truly allows our luminaries to manage their stay seamlessly, and it allows us to be more efficient in how we deliver our services. However, I firmly believe that the essence of true luxury lies in human interaction. And our line associates, our hosts, our staff is all trained to deliver this utmost personalized service that technology, no matter how good, cannot replicate. And the human element that Amanda mentioned is truly distinguishing us in the hospitality industry from the rest of the luxury hotels out there. And we do take pride in that.
That's fantastic. And I'm actually curious, Amanda, what are some of your favorite St. Regis design and architectural elements? Octavia shared a lot about the New York property, but what are some of the design features that you find in St. Regis hotels across the world?
It's something that's different among St. Regis as compared to some of our other luxury group brands is each of our hotels feeling like one of the Astor's homes in the way that we want to greet you and host you. And so even things as very tangible as we don't have club lounges in our hotels because they're meant to actually feel like everywhere is a club and where every guest is welcome. And I love that our hotels feel very extravagant and opulent, but yet they also feel like you can really get cozy and be private. I think probably one of the most notable features that if you talk to some of our guests who stay with us regularly, they will comment about the St. Regis bar and then the supporting mural, I will say, that is part of our design strategy for each hotel. The St. Regis bar is really an homage to the King Cole Bar that Octavia has the luxury and the luckiness to have in her beautiful hotel. And it's really there. And Maxfield Parrish's famous old King Cole mural, which was there and has been there for nearly 100 years. And it's really that inspiration that started that thinking of each of our St. Regis bars. They should really have their own mural that should really be commissioned to tell the story of their hotel's design, their locale. And it actually is this really interesting conversation starter that you can have. And so many of our guests, they actually collect these pictures of the murals and they want to see them and experience them. I could go on and on, but I find that there's just a lot of kind of like hidden treasures that I think all add to the lore of St. Regis, and you find them tucked away in all these different hotels, and that's kind of part of the joy of it.
I actually wanted to interject because I just remembered a really good story of the mural, and it's among one of the challenges that I encountered in this renovation, actually.
This is good. This story is really interesting.
So allow me to take you through the history of the mural. The mural was actually commissioned to Maxfield Parrish for the Knickerbocker Hotel. And the Knickerbocker Hotel was at that time where the post office is right now on 8th and 34th. And Maxfield Parrish was not really a big fan of bourgeois. And he was commissioned to think about the $5,000 that was offered for it. And when he did hear about the offer, he decided to take on the assignment. And he painted the mural, the old King Cole mural, based on the Mother Goose rhyme, Old King Cole was a merry old soul, and a merry old soul was he, and so on. And he really wanted to encompass in this mural a little bit of his simplicity and how he was brought up as a monk, but also his mockery to bourgeois. And the face of the king actually resembles very slightly the features of John Jacob Astor IV, our founder. And there is a secret behind the mural that I am not going to reveal on this podcast. And I hope that the listeners will come for a drink and ask about it, or maybe try to guess it. You can maybe guess it if you look at the mural attentively.
I'd actually love to know, Octavia, how are you going to celebrate the renovation and the 120th anniversary? I mean, it is a hotel that is known for very many decades because of its tradition with the Astors as the place to celebrate. I've been lucky to go to lots of weddings there. It's a very special place for New York celebrations. So what are you going to do?
Let me tell you, that spectacular milestone is not an easy task. So we are thrilled to celebrate this renovation and its coincidence with its 120th anniversary in a spectacular way. We do hold immense significance to the brand, and we have an exciting array of events and initiatives that are planned. To celebrate, we are collaborating with various partners, including heritage brands from New York and iconic figures to help us tell the rich story of the St. Regis. One notable collaboration is with a renowned fashion brand to create a bespoke holiday tree and a secret room service menu, which aims to introduce across our hotels in New York City and North America a completely different way of looking at luxury.
That's amazing. And actually, I would love to hear from you, Israel. Speaking about legends and histories, you've been on the property for almost 30 years. Are there any favorite client stories that you can share?
Yeah, there are many of them. I will tell you about one it was beautiful. It was like a real lifetime Disney movie for me. I was told by a guest that we have not time. He was a king, Middle Eastern king. And he called me to his room. I enter, present myself, and he said, I need to open up with you about something very personal to me. Which is, I replied, yes, Your Highness, I'm here. How can I assist you? And he said, I fall in love with a woman and want to propose her. And it is she doesn't know. So we need to get everything ready for this. I need you to get me a ring. I need you to get me some music for the background and flowers for the lobby, flowers for the corridor, and so on. And the time it was a summer It was July, actually. It was July in 1997 or something like that. I wrote this because I spoke about this before when I was talking to someone else regarding the experience that we had at St. Regis while training in a hotel. And he delegated me to have everything ready. It was around 5:30 p.m. afternoon, so everything was about to close around New York. So we needed to rush and get the flowers and get the diamond ring, of which I went to select myself, delegated by him to choose the most expensive ring on the store. He fell in love with the New York bartender. So there was like a Cinderella story. There was something beautiful, and everything will fall into place. We get violinist, we get music in the lobby, we have flowers in the elevator, we have flowers in the corridor, and everything was so beautiful, so elegant. And I went to the store to get this ring, and of course, I chose the one that I thought was going to be significant and appropriate for the occasion.
Tell them the price, Israel. Get to the price.
The price was back then was $350,000. And
Gosh.
I got this. Yeah.
Exactly. I almost fell down the chair when I heard that.
Yeah, and then I came back to the hotel. But you know what? The most beautiful thing is that we were supposed to, after she arrived and all that, she didn't know anything about it. But she was a little bit, I don't know, let's say suspicious that the everything looks a little bit different. It was too much. She felt like there was a lot of attention on her, so something was about to happen. And His Highness told me what's going to happen is that when we call for dinner, you are to bring in a room service table this ring covered with the silver plate, so she doesn't know what is inside there, and then I take it from there. So we did exactly that. We prepare everything. It was like Disney. It was like a fairy tale coming through. And the way that he presented to me, what he said, I said, I had found my Cinderella. That's what he said. So it was a beautiful touch. After she called for a dinner, I brought the table and I'm covered this ring inside this silver plate. It was like being in a movie. It was a fantastic story, beautiful story.
No really request is too small or too big for our butler team.
That's a pretty good one, though. And I'm assuming, Israel, she said yes.
Of course she did.
Okay, good. It wouldn't be a fairy tale if she hadn't. That is fantastic. I have to say, while we're talking, I remembered a story of my own from the St. Regis, and I was in grade school, and one of my closest friends, I grew up in New York, and one of my closest friends' father was a big deal movie TV producer who lived in California. And he came to New York, and he always stayed at the St. Regis. And her parents were divorced, and he got to have, he said, you can have a sleepover at the St. Regis. And so she invited me, and the two of us were so excited. We were having a sleepover at the St. Regis, and we got to have room service. And this is back in probably the late 70s or sometime in the 70s, because nobody would allow, it's not even legal to do this. The man went out to dinner. He was going out to dinner with a famous actress that was on a big sitcom on TV. At that point, we knew who she was. She was a big deal TV star. And he left the two of us in the room to have room service and watch a movie while he went on his date. And we fell asleep watching the movie. And of course, when he went out to dinner, he'd said, lock the door. So we locked the door, we fell asleep, and it was a big suite, and we were in the bedroom. And the poor man finally, after I don't know how many minutes of knocking and banging on the door and trying to get into his room, had to get someone from security to let him in because we locked him out of his room. I still remember thinking this man probably was hoping that the end of his evening was going to be with this wonderful movie star that he took out on a date. And instead, he ended up with two 12-year-olds who'd locked him out of his room at the St. Regis.
But you had the best night, no?
We had the best night. We'd had room service. We were in a suite. We felt like Cinderellas. I think that's why I remembered the story is real, because you were talking about Cinderellas at the St. Regis. And that was my Cinderella story at the St. Regis.
Beautiful.
You brought up some famous personality or celebrity, and we have such an illustrious repertoire of actually private guests. But we've been also featured in so many films and television shows, from Godfather Part 1 to Devil Wears Prada, Gossip Girl, Taxi, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Billions. There's a lot of movies that were done throughout time that were filmed here, and we have so many stories. My favorite is actually from The Godfather Part 1, because almost everyone remembers that scene where in a revolving door there's a shot and somebody runs down the stairs and does the shootout at the revolving doors. That's our revolving door, the one towards the side. Very few people would know, but now when they walk in the St. Regis, they will look at the revolving door and say, wow, this is that same door that I saw in the movie many times.
Yes.
That's so fun. This has been so much fun. I'd love to end by asking all of you what your hope for the future of the New York property is. Actually, I'll ask you, Octavia, for the New York property, and I'll ask you, Amanda, about the St. Regis brand. And then Israel, I'm going to ask you what your hope is for all St. Regis guests.
I'll start with the St. Regis New York is a legendary building. And I do see myself as a passenger in this long history of general managers. And really, every true leader aspires to leave a lasting impact. And my dream is for this property to continue evolving, to continue crafting and creating memorable experiences for the guests and for the employees, and really to draw continuous interest in its remarkable history. There are so many countless histories embedded in the walls of this hotel that I do hope the St. Regis New York will continue building these stories. And generations from now will look back at this podcast as a significant point in time. And we are here, and as long as I am here, I'm available for our listeners to give tours. And I do know a lot of fun stories about this hotel. And we do historical walks in the hotel, sometimes with guests and group of guests, especially around holiday time. So we hope to see our listeners here, and we hope we're going to build a legendary legacy.
Fantastic. I would love to come. I'll organize, Octavia, to bring some of our members for a historical tour with you, and followed by tea or a Bloody Mary in the King Cole Bar.
Or all of the above.
Exactly.
I was going to say, Octavia is a fabulous tour guide, I would say. I have seen her stop guests who are waiting for an elevator, and she pulls them over to this corner and she's here, look up at this stairwell. And you can see they would have never stopped to look at that one singular point of view, and their jaws are dropped in awe because she's showing them the exact place to stand to have this exact moment and experience in her hotel. So she is the one that you want to be giving your tour. She knows it all.
Amanda is talking about the $1 million staircase that was $1 million in 1904 to be built, and it's perfectly engineered in brass and marble. And you can see the ceiling from the second floor all the way up. It's quite remarkable.
Amazing. So, Amanda, what's your hope for the brand?
I'd say similar to Octavia, I feel very honored to have this moment in time where I am able to be a shepherd of the brand. This brand is bigger than any of us and all of us. And so to have this moment in time, for me to look ahead, it's really, I wish for us to continue telling this rich history, keeping the Astor legacy alive, which I know we will, and as we create these exquisite hotels around the world. And I think as we continue to have more hotels and create these experiences, finding these luxury travelers who want just a bit of escapism and want to feel like an Astor, if only for a few days at a time. And I think that's the biggest legacy that we can have, that we really create this world for our guests. And they know they can find that at any hotel that they step into of ours.
Fantastic. And Israel, what about you? What do you hope for the guests of the St. Regis?
To come to experience something that is not only remarkable, but takes anyone back to history, because of the marble, because of the not only because of the chandelier, but because how it feels inside. There is like emotional connection with it because we put all our heart in every single day detail to make the guest feel home away from home, as it was prescribed and described by John Jacob Astor when he has an idea to create a place like this. Please come to visit the St. Regis. Give us the opportunity to show you what service is about, what bespoke service is about. We're here, we will stay here, and the legacy of the St. Regis will stay forever.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you all so much. I can't wait to experience the reborn St. Regis and see all of these amazing things and have my drink and tell you what I think the secret is in the mural and get the history tour and introduce many of our members to this gorgeous property and all that it has done. I've been very lucky to stay in other properties as well within the brand, and I think it really, you do an incredible job. So thank you so much for sharing the stories.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Melissa.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
for
Melissa.
having us. This has been wonderful to be with you and reliving our history and celebrating 120. So thank you again.
A big thank you to Amanda, Octavia, and Israel for joining me today. It was so fun to hear their personal stories from the front lines of the St. Regis, and to share a few of my own, and to learn about the many ways that the brand has been revolutionizing the hospitality industry for 120 years. For more on the flagship New York property and to check out more hotels in the acclaimed portfolio, head to st-regis.marriott.com and follow the brand on Instagram at St. Regis Hotels. Plus, keep your eye out for their newly launched podcast, St. Regis Legends of Fifth. Coming up on Passport to Everywhere, I'm bringing back one of our fan-favorite episodes with Patty McKillen, the mastermind behind France's Chateau Lacoste in Provence, which also happens to be one of my favorite hotels. Join us in spreading the passion for travel by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. And please send all your questions and suggestions to passport@indagari.com or write me a message on Instagram @IndagariFounder. Your ideas are what help us fuel the journey. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for joining us at Passport to Everywhere. We hope you'll join the journey and subscribe. For more travel inspiration, visit indagari.com. INDAGARE. This has been Passport to Everywhere.